TMZ says Law Light Podcast is the podcast for drunk, high, half-naked men who climb into the back of SUVs.
Our podcast put him to sleep.
The
kept
premier.
him asleep. We kept him asleep.
We saved that woman's life. That's how I look at it.
This case should never have come to trial.
I don't think it's fair to call my clients frauds. Because one time I turned into a dog and they helped me. Thank you.
Your Honor, we would like to withdraw our plea of not guilty and enter a plea of guilty.
This trial is a travesty. It's a travesty of a mockery, of a sham, of a mockery, of a travesty, of two mockeries, of a sham.
If we are to have faith in justice, we need only to believe in ourselves.
And the truth shall set you free!
How do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Oh, guilty, but with a real good excuse.
I think the truth will come forth.
You can't handle the truth!
Hello, everybody. It is time for more Law Light.
Indeed.
Brought to you by Foreman Watson Holtree, FWHlegal.com. We are back in the friendly confines of the two-story white brick edifice library studio conference room.
Well, you're back. I was here.
That's correct. I'm back.
I guess technically I'm back. I came from another room.
Guess who's back? Back again. So it's time to pod some cast or cast some pod, right?
Yep, we are podcasting.
It is good to be back. Actually, I just got back in town today, right? I was, Tyler Johnson and I went to Terre Haute for a deposition of our nursing expert in a medical malpractice case. You ever been to Terre Haute?
I have not.
Well, it's the crossroads of America.
So you met the devil.
No, I don't think. Why would I meet the devil?
Because don't you meet the devil at the crossroads?
At the crossroads of America?
I don't know.
No, I don't.
I think it's any crossroads.
No.
Isn't that where like that one blues player?
Yeah.
It's a blues song.
It's
That's where it came from, right?
But no, I didn't meet the devil. It's where 40, which goes from coast to coast, east to west,
right,
intersects with 41, which goes from the southern border to the northern border. So they call it the crossroads of America.
No, I've never. Is it a big place?
It's about the size of Owensboro.
Oh, okay.
Maybe a little smaller. Tyler and I went down yesterday, met with our expert, discussed the case with her, prepared her for her testimony today, for giving a deposition. And then today she gave her deposition, did a good job.
Cool.
We hopped back in our car and drove back. It's about 3 hours.
Yeah.
So
we almost thought you were going to have to do it via phone again.
Yeah, we almost did. But you know what? I drive fast.
Yeah, you do.
And I made up some time on the road, and here I am. You know, for people that don't know, a lot of times I surprise PJ with what we're going to talk about.
And today is no exception.
Today is no exception. I have some paper over here. Now, before I get to it, I have to eat these two pieces of candy on top of them.
Please crunch as loudly as you can directly into the mic.
But today we're going to switch things up just a little bit.
Okay.
Before we get to my surprise, when we were sitting down, you said, hey, I've got something I want to talk about on the podcast today. I was like, well, how brazen of you to have a topic you want to discuss on the podcast. I don't like it because, see, it's like I like knowing what we're going to talk about and leaving you out in the dark. But today you came in and said, hey, I got something I want to talk about. And I said, okay, what is it?
Right.
And you were like, no, I'm not telling you. So you wouldn't tell me.
I would not.
And you have a
because I'm brazen.
You have a top. You're a raisin.
No,
using
I'm brazen.
my word, brazen.
Some might even say I am a brazier type person.
Yeah. Okay. PJ, you have a topic you want to discuss. Now you did say, hey, it's not really legal.
It's not legal at all.
At all. Okay. All right. Well, it's a good thing mine may be, so that we can keep the law light, part of this thing going. The floor or the airwaves or whatever it is are yours.
Well, so the reason this jumped out at me was because I'm a big fan of urban legends, and this is very urban legend-esque. So that's why it's jumped out at me. But it was so the headline pretty much kind of gives it all away. But it's Rhode Island woman drives for nearly an hour before discovering naked stranger in her SUV.
Okay, read that headline one more time.
Rhode Island woman drives for nearly an hour before discovering a semi-naked stranger in her SUV. So this woman, interestingly enough, was listening to a podcast during her late-night commute to work. She was uninjured in the incident. The long and the short of it is, I guess at some point she stopped, and when she peered into the back seat area of it. She drives a Tahoe. There was a nearly naked man passed out like in the floor area of the back seats. She called the police. They showed up. He was Hispanic. He didn't speak any English. They had to get an interpreter. He had a pair of shorts hanging off of one leg and a shirt hanging off of one of his arms, and the rest of him was completely nude. And it turns out that he was super drunk and high.
Well, you go figure. So what did they charge him with? Maybe some type of disorderly conduct, public intoxication.
He was arrested without incident and transported back to the police headquarters. He was charged with breaking and entering into a vehicle in the nighttime.
Breaking and entering into the vehicle. So we'll have to ask John Bennett this, but if you break and enter into a vehicle in the daytime,
I don't understand why they have to add that in the nighttime.
And I wonder if it's a lesser charge or a more a stricter charge.
I mean, he wasn't trying to endanger the woman's life or anything, so I'm assuming.
But why did the nighttime and the daytime thing?
I don't know. I'm assuming they wouldn't normally throw the book at him. He'd still get in trouble, but apparently he also had an outstanding warrant. From another area
this guy
of Rhode
sounds
Island.
like a class act.
Upstanding citizen.
Right, costing us taxpayers money to keep him in and out of the court system.
Well, at least he was too drunk and high to murder the woman.
That's true.
There's a silver lining to this.
Yeah, there definitely is sort of a silver lining.
Well, I guess the real silver lining would just be not finding a naked dude in the back of your vehicle.
That's right. It would be better to just not
to go
happen.
to work.
That's right. Just be able to podcast in peace, drive in your commute, and get to work without incident.
Right. I was wrong about the stop. I don't remember. Did I say stop at a gas station? She actually got out at her work, and I guess went around in the parking lot at work, and that's when she saw him.
So he had ridden with her for nearly
the
an
whole
hour.
way.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know if I said gas station or not, but if I did say gas station, it's because that's the opening scene of the movie Urban Legend, where there's a killer in the back seat.
Okay, so
hiding.
There's a couple things I want to talk about this.
Okay.
First of all, let's consider the ways this could have been worse. All right.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways this could have been worse.
You change one little face. So you are driving, listening to your the Law Lite podcast.
Oh, she was obviously listening to our podcast.
She was. I'm surprised they didn't say that. Probably an oversight by the reporter.
TMZ says Law Lite podcast is the podcast for drunk, high, half-naked men who climb into the back of SUVs.
Our podcast put him to sleep.
The
kept
premiere.
him to sleep. We kept him asleep.
We saved that woman's life.
Yeah,
That's how I look at it.
We need to be. We have to let them know that we saved her life.
Hey, woman who was listening to our podcast, they didn't release her name.
Oh, yeah.
She's just Rhode Island woman.
Okay, Rhode Island woman.
Hey, I swear it's Logan. Oh wait, I bet he's wanting to know if I have the house unarmed.
Here, put him on the podcast.
You know, this is the second time you've been on the podcast.
Oh, am I on the podcast right now?
You are now, yeah.
Oh, am I on speaker?
This is the second time you've interrupted the podcast.
Get ready to hear this. I have a date tomorrow. I recently got a girlfriend.
Hey.
So wait, so you did it backwards. You got a girlfriend and now you're going on a date.
Well, yeah, you can have a girlfriend and go out.
That's
together.
true.
Yeah.
I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Okay, well, she wants to go to the Sadie's with me, which is tomorrow at 7, which is a football game.
Wait, Sadie Hawkins dance?
No, it's a football game. It's called the Sadie's.
Right, but okay, maybe they do it differently now. But I always thought
at OHS there's a football game at 7. She says if I can meet her at OHS at 7 and we can watch the football game together. She's really into sports.
I mean, I'm fine with that. Actually, hey, let's continue this conversation after the podcast.
Wait, no, I got to continue it because I want to know. If you get off at 5, I already did my permit test.
Well, I'm the one taking you to your permit test, so I'll already be technically off work.
Oh, okay, because I want to film the movie and then go, if that's okay.
Well, if we have time, we can do that.
Okay, I'll let her know that it's on.
Oh, you'll let her know it's on, huh?
Oh, it's on. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, all right. Well, I will. All right. Well, I gotta hop off here.
Okay, later.
All right. Love you too. Bye.
Well, what about that? We documented.
Yeah.
That's a first ever for the podcast where we document a young man's first
romance
real date.
Yeah.
How about
That's
that?
right.
How's that make you feel, Poppy?
As long as he doesn't get her pregnant, I'm fine.
Gosh. It always derails when it...
Well, as a father, that is what I'm most concerned about.
Yeah, well, look,
Second is him not looking like a moron.
This is a first date, okay? So it's first date.
Yeah, but it's 2022.
No.
Things are like, look.
You tell him that there is a rapid case of monkeypox flying around Owensboro.
Absolutely.
Don't kiss.
Okay. We were expecting to have flying cars in 2022, but instead we're getting teenage pregnancies.
Well, I think we've had teenage pregnancies a lot longer.
Probably, but we should still at least have some flying cars.
Yeah. Now let's go back to the person.
Okay, right.
Okay, I asked how it could get worse, and so here's a scenario.
You just heard how it got worse.
Here's a scenario I want you to think about real quick. Okay, you're driving along in your Tahoe, listening to the Done Lite podcast, which we've established saved her life because it kept him asleep. You hear a rustling going on in your back seat, or you feel a tap on your shoulder. Imagine that for a moment. Imagine you're just driving and you feel someone tap you on the shoulder. How would you respond to that?
Well, I would slam on the brakes as hard as I could so whoever's in the back seat goes flying forward and slams their face into the windshield.
Then what would you do?
Then I would start wildly punching them, only to find out it's Connor.
Yeah. Well, think about it. Then when you figure out that there's a person in there, not only is it a person, but they're pretty much naked. I don't think that would be a good night. I think the best possible scenario, if you're gonna have a drunk high,
I'd probably call into work.
Naked man in your car. As far as outcomes, the outcome was good.
Oh yeah, this was best case scenario.
Best case scenario, because any discovering this while you're hovering around 65 miles per hour, man, could be disastrous.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that joke, the guy that was driving a taxi cab for his very first time and had the people in the back seat, and one of them reached up to touch him to tell him, hey, never mind our plan, we need to go here, change the plans. And he touches him and the guy freaks out. He just goes crazy. And the guy in the back seat was like, hey, dude, calm down. What's the problem? He goes, oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, this is my first night driving a taxi cab. And before this, my job was driving a hearse. So, yeah.
It's funny you say that because I was going to say, what if you're driving along and you feel somebody tap your shoulder and you turn around and there's nobody back there?
Right.
Then you'd be wishing it was a drunk, high, naked dude.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? Thanks for bringing this topic to the podcast.
No problem.
That headline would have caught my eye too.
Yeah, normally I don't look at the headlines, but that popped up. So
read the headline one more time.
Rhode Island woman drives for nearly an hour before discovering semi-naked stranger.
Okay, I know why you now. No, hold on. We're not done with this topic. I know why you kept reading, and I know why it caught your eye. Because the semi-naked stranger part, you were hopeful that it was another woman in the car and that they were going to, you were going to hear about some naked woman being in the backseat.
Right.
That's what caught you were hoping it was.
Well, it's only because it's, while this is very specific, it's my favorite category.
Okay. See? Derail. PJ? Have you been attending church on Sundays? Have you been missing?
Humor is universal.
I know we have this topic all the time, but it just seems your humor goes the same direction every single time on this podcast.
Todd Reynolds once said that whereas most people step over the line, I run full speed and jump way over it.
Or on it. Like this, pounce on it. All right. Well, we're switching topics.
Okay.
So I got a few questions to set mine up, okay?
All right.
So are you familiar with online education, like in college? Like, I know your kids are not in college, but are you familiar with like
University of Phoenix?
Yeah, that kind of online. Like it's a big one, WGU.
Oh, yeah. Right? I know what you're talking about.
It was non-existent when I was a kid.
Right.
Like when I went through college, you went to the brick and mortar school. There was no online options and that kind of thing. So it's pretty cool because there are some major So, major university that now have online options. Let's say you want to graduate from Purdue University. There are certain degree programs that you don't have to step foot on Purdue's campus to get a degree from Purdue University. You can, you can be in the Caribbean the whole time.
Right.
And doing this online, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things is that really for some students, and I'm not going to get into the student loan thing. It's not where this is going. But for some students, they don't have to leave home. They can still live there, save money, do online classes, and get a degree, okay?
Yeah. That's what Abby's doing. She's Leslie's daughter. She's taking classes at the community college, and she was at home last night doing her homework, going through her classes.
Now, did you have?
On the laptop.
Did you have? Okay, so but have you talked to her about how they do tests?
I have not. I actually took some online classes back in the day.
How long back in the day?
This would have been like 2002, 2003.
Okay, so I want to ask you what your experience was with testing. Okay, so how did they do the tests online?
They would, so you would get sent the test through, there's an interface, and that interface you're logged into has an email. So they would, so it has like an inbox. Mm-hmm. So you would click on a link, and it would open the test in a link, and then it would have, of course, the answers and things. And then you had to select which one that you thought was the correct answer. If it was an essay, of course, you had to type it out.
So you would click with the cursor?
Right, and then you would move to the next page, and it wouldn't allow you to go back until you were all the way at the end, and then you could go back and review what you had put, and then you submit it, and then that was it. Then you had no access.
Were they timed?
That I don't remember. I don't remember if it was or not. I can say this. I thought it was going to be great doing it that way. Turns out I hated doing it that way.
Okay. I had no exposure to this until Missy was getting her bachelor's of science in nursing and then started her master's program in nursing, okay? And the classes that she was taking, they were it was through WGU, Western Governors University, and it was an online program. When it would come time for the tests, they had these cameras that they looked like a little ball on top of a like a bendy, and it had a base. Okay, you had to get it operating, and you had to have that camera running during the exam. And not only did you have to have the camera running, but before the exam, because it was on that stick, you had to do a 360 pan of the room to show that there was nobody else in the room with you. You had to show that all you had was a whiteboard that they give you. They give you like this erase, like a dry erase board to like, because
was it mathematics?
No, this one had some formulas in it. It was a science class, and so you had to do all this, and then you sat down and you took the test. Okay, couldn't have a cell phone in there. If you had to have a calculator, you had to show the calculator. So it was really strict.
What is this, Nazi Germany?
Well, I remember thinking, I was like, that's, I guess, to cut down on cheating, to ensure the integrity of the process. They'd come up with this, right? And it was tests. I mean, they'd send you the camera. They sent you the whiteboard. It was all part of your tuition. Like, this came with it, okay? So that was my first time seeing it. I mean, and Missy was the same way. Missy said, I thought I was going to like this, but this is, like, intense, right? That was my first really seeing it firsthand. And then here was what's crazy. Like, we have 2 dogs, right?
Right.
And so, like, when I knew she was testing, like, I was always worried that somebody was going to walk by out front and the dogs were going to bark and all that stuff. So we had to figure out where the best place for her to do this was and that kind of stuff. Okay, so I'm sharing this because it just never sat well with me. I thought maybe I was just being a little bit of a
Grumpy Gus.
I thought, first of all, they store this examination where people can access it, right? The professor and things like that. They're panning a room in my house. Right, and I was like, isn't that sort of an intrusion into our house?
Invasion of privacy.
They are videotaping inside my house. What if you had some rare bottle of bourbon up there and I'm gonna break into that house? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm just saying.
You never know.
Okay, but I didn't. I thought, okay, I'm being particular. I'm not gonna say anything.
Is this leading up to your bourbon disappearing?
No.
That disappears nightly.
So last night, Tyler and I had gone out to have a pizza and got back to our room, and I was perusing through legal stuff, and I found a case that I want to talk to you about.
Okay.
Federal judge, okay, so this is the federales, all right? This isn't a state court. This is a federal judge.
Right.
Rules that Cleveland State's video search of a student's home during an examination is unconstitutional. Okay, I'm going to read the headline one more time. Federal judge rules Cleveland State's video search of a student's home during an exam was unconstitutional. Now, it immediately caught my eye because back when Missy was doing this, something sat wrong with me. I was like, this doesn't feel right. But I never say anything. Well, apparently I'm not the only person that this didn't sit right with, okay?
Right.
So I'm going to give you a little information from the Cleveland, Ohio federal judge said that Cleveland State University's video search of a student's bedroom before an examination violated that student's privacy rights and amounted to an unconstitutional search. The U.S. District Judge J. Philip Calabrese ruled Monday in favor of the Cleveland State University student Aaron Ogletree, who challenged the use of webcam cameras to scan the entire area where the student took an online test. Exactly like what Missy had to do. Ogletree's attorney, so the student's attorney, a guy named Matthew Basir, said the case is believed to be a first of its kind in our country and will likely set precedent for future cases. So then it goes on. Here's a quote. If there is any place where students have a reasonable expectation of privacy, it's inside their home or their dorm or their apartment. Colorado State University's warrantless webcam searches of a student's home tramples our fundamental right to privacy. That was what the attorney said. Calabrese the judge ordered that the attorneys on both sides confer on the next steps and issue a report before September 13th. His decision came in the university's attempt to have the case dismissed. So the university was trying to dismiss the entire thing.
Right.
He says, okay, so the use of online tests, he gives some data here, and I wanted to talk about this. The use of online tests skyrocketed during the coronavirus pandemic when many schools went to online-only classes and test taking. Calabrese said Colorado State violated Ogletree's Fourth Amendment rights against unlawful searches. Room scans go where people otherwise would not, at least not without a warrant or an invitation, Calabrese wrote. Ogletree filed the lawsuit last year in federal court in Cleveland about 2 hours before a chemistry test. A test administrator alerted him that he would need to submit to a webcam scan of his entire bedroom. Ogletree told the test administrator he had tax documents in his room and he didn't want them seen. He submitted to the scan, which took somewhere between 20 seconds and a minute. So the scan of the room was required. So the person's okay, watching it. Other students can see the room scans of others taking the same test. So if you've already logged on and you're waiting to take your test,
right,
you can see okay, now that wasn't the case with Missy's, all right? You set a test time and it was you by yourself. You didn't see other people.
Right.
But other students can see. The room scans are recorded and stored in the school's third-party vendor that oversees the tests. Calabrese said in his ruling that Cleveland State did not require the procedure for all their online tests, and that some professors or test administrators didn't even use that option to monitor whether the students had cheated during a test. So some of the professors have said, don't need the camera. We're not doing that.
Okay.
I don't want that.
Those are the cool teachers.
Yeah. He said the procedure doesn't necessarily ensure honesty and that other procedures, including locking a student's ability to access the internet during a test and using programs that are of artificial intelligence, could work without violating a student's privacy rights. So they're worried about cheating and them having access to something, right? So shut off their internet, or access to, again, another slippery slope, right?
Yeah.
So anyhow, so basically, I've got to tell you what Cleveland State's attorney says. Cleveland State's attorney says that the room scans are an industry-wide standard, and I agree with him on that because I've seen it happen at my house, to ensure academic fairness and integrity. They're limited in scope, not conducted in connection with a criminal investigation, and are not forced upon a student. Now, I don't know about that. I don't think Missy could have just said, I'm not doing it. Right? They would have probably not counted her test results.
Right.
Students also control the room scan, the school argued. Calabrese was not convinced, however, and he ruled that the school doesn't use the room scans consistently, that the devices still constituted a violation of privacy of someone's home. And then this is the final quote. And this is what the judge wrote. Although the intrusion at issue might not strike a person as especially problematic, particularly in the nascent Zoom era, the core protection afforded to the home, the lack of options, the inconsistency in applications by the school, and short notice of the scan weighed in Ogletree's favor. So, I want to talk to you about this.
Okay.
Okay, here's the other side of the coin. If you know that you're going to use a particular area for your examination, if there's something in there you're worried about, like tax documents,
Yeah.
right? Or something that's of value and you don't want somebody, seeing it because they'll break your. But I mean, you could make your room fairly vanilla, right? I mean, you could.
Well, I mean, just turn the tax documents over.
Upside down, right? Exactly. So, one of the things that came to my mind is if you give them reasonable notice that the room you're going to be in is going to be scanned. If there's anything in there you don't want to be seen, give them advance notice of it and say, cleanse your room because you're going to have to do a 360 pan of the entire room. Doesn't that fix this thing?
Absolutely. Here's the first thing that pops into my head. What do you have to hide?
Right.
I mean, I understand that there are some people who are super private and they don't want specific things like information about them to get out. To me, this goes back to the whole, people were worried about the COVID vaccine because it could potentially have a tracking device, or anybody who's worried about the government putting a tracking device in you.
You were worried about that. You put a quarter on your shoulder because you were concerned.
Well, I wasn't worried about a tracking device. I was worried about suddenly I was magnetized.
Okay.
But as far as like the tracking thing, I mean, that's what the argument is that's what a cell phone is. They can track you with your cell phone no matter what. But the bottom line is,
we don't want to give those up, do we?
Regardless, I wouldn't care if somebody said I'm putting a tracking device in your hand. I'd be like, all right,
I'm boring.
I don't care. Yeah, I don't care. What am I doing to where I'm so worried that somebody's going to see that I'm doing something? And there's two sides of that coin. There's some people just really, really, really don't want you knowing what they're doing because they truly, honestly believe that it's none of your business, even if that's just all they do is sit down and watch TV. And then there's the other side, which is you're doing something you shouldn't be doing.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it's like, what does it really matter? I mean, pick your battles, people.
I agree. I didn't get upset about it. There was something in my legal thinking mind when I saw Mr. I was like, I wonder if anybody's ever challenged this. Because it popped in my mind that this is an eye inside our house, and women who really don't want people to know where they live. If you can tell by a front door, maybe your door gets caught in it, right? And the person's like, oh, I know where those are in that apartment complex over at such. Again, you start taking with these outlier examples and you can make your case. But
here's the thing. Any stranger can just come up to your house randomly, whether you post on social media or not, and kick your front door in and come after you, whether you're home or not. You know, they can rob your house. Or at any given point in the day, we're a potential victim no matter where we're at and what we're doing.
I don't think it's an illegal search. I don't think it's illegal because the person, they know they have to do it. It seems to me, what happened? You got sweat in your eye?
I got something in my eye.
You okay?
I think I got nose grease in it.
That's gross. Hi. So I think it could have been avoided. Number one, if it was required of everybody and not selectively enforced.
Right.
Number two is if in the printed material it says you're going to have to scan your room, so 30 minutes before test time, anything in there that is private, sensitive, anything, remove it or get it to where it can't be seen. Right. It's best that these rooms not show any of your significant personal belongings and things like that. I think if they would have had that type of a protocol and the student has notice ahead of time and every single class is proctored the same exact way, probably would not. I don't know if the judge would have arrived at the same result. It was just something about the fact that this one, they pop on you, apparently didn't give them any notice about you're going to, you can turn on your webcam,
Yeah.
What if a person didn't have a webcam?
I mean, that's true too. I mean,
because not all computer screens, monitors have them. Most laptops do, but not.
Was it the last second that he was notified?
It just said lack of notice. Remember?
Right. Okay,
so I don't understand what that meant. Like adequate notice or
And see, once again, though, adequate notice or lack of notice can mean a couple different things to different people. Like, if somebody were to let me know within 24 hours about something, I'd be fine with that. But I know other people that are like, I need 2 or 3 days notice.
Right.
And then I know other people who only need a couple hours notice.
Yeah.
So it really kind of depends on who you are and what you consider a adequate amount of time to be notified about whatever.
It's interesting, to say the least, because it's something. What was so weird about it's not like a huge news item. I mean, it's not. You know, in the district court judges, as we discussed last week, how appeals work. District court judge can be appealed,
right?
So you can go up to the Court of Appeals. I think that's Ohio 6th Circuit Court of Appeals, U.S. 6th Circuit, which is in Cincinnati. They can argue it to the Court of Appeals and maybe get it stricken that it's not an illegal search. But if it sticks and other people start, you know, all of a sudden now you got a lot of people like WGU, Online Phoenix, all those things, and they use this, you're going to have to either find out what's going to pass judicial scrutiny or quit doing it.
Right.
You know,
there's always that one person who ruins it for everybody.
That's right. So test cheaters, your day may have been made.
I know. You're
right?
gonna have to start going. You're just gonna have to go back to cheating on in-class tests.
That's right. That's what we're gonna go back to. This may be the end of online testing.
Here's what I take away from this story: had that guy just not done his taxes, it wouldn't have been a problem.
That's the cure. Don't do your taxes.
Just don't do your taxes.
Then you don't have them laying around.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, I'm glad you figured it all out.
That's right.
So tomorrow night is Sadie Hawkins' dance.
Well, see, update. Logan messaged me, and turns out he's wrong. He sent me a thing that says, "Good morning, OHS. We're 5 weeks away from the Sadie Hawkins dance. So it's Friday, September 23rd.
So she's asking him in advance to go to that?
I suppose so. So I'm not sure if there is a game tomorrow night that he's wanting to go to.
There is, Owensboro.
He said, never mind, the game is tomorrow at 9:30.
That's awfully late. It's 7:30. It is at Owensboro. It's a home game.
All right, well, I'm letting him know that because he said that it's at 9:30.
He needs to get his stuff straight.
Yeah, he's definitely all over the place with what's happening here. He's like 5 weeks off with Sadie Hawkins.
Well, it wasn't a dance in the first place. And you were like, maybe things have changed. I was like, no, I don't think so. Sadie's is a dance.
Yeah, Sadie, yeah.
It's where the girl asked the guy, though. So that's consistent with the story.
Yeah.
And they dressed up like farmers, right? And that, like, didn't you wear flannel shirts and that kind of stuff?
Well, no, he said the game is at OHS at 9:30.
Tell him, actually, here it is, right there from the Kentucky High School Athletics website. Owensboro at Apollo is at 7 p.m. Look at it right there.
So I said, nope, 7 p.m. Travis just looked it up. So he can go to the game at 9:30, but he'll just be 2.5 hours late.
He'll see the end of it.
Right.
Well, we hopefully this all works out for Logan, and he does have a date in 5 weeks to the Sadies. But one way to mess that up would tell her, yeah, I'll get you to that game at 9:30. And it started at 7, and she wanted to see her little friends, and have Logan with her. See, we got to keep him in line.
Somebody has to.
All right. Well, for all you test takers out there, we have maybe read about the beginning of the end for videotaped, video monitored, online home testing. And we also want to warn you, this is a public service announcement, PJ. Look in your back seats for not very well-dressed, intoxicated, and drug-influenced.
Right. Not just
Hispanics.
the back seat, though. The floorboard.
The floor.
He was down on the floor. Do you ever do that?
Get on the floor of my car?
No. Like when you go, like if it's late at night or whatever and you go to get in your car, do you ever look in the back seats just to double check?
No, I don't.
I do. I've always done that.
Why?
Before this story, I always felt a little silly. But now I have a reason. This guy legitimized my fear. Now, it was never like a naked man in the back seat. It was always just some sadistic killer.
The moral of this story is this. When you drive, listen to boring podcasts.
Right.
Keep your occupants asleep. You're not your unauthorized occupants asleep.
Yep.
Okay.
And you got to listen to our podcast because it saves lives.
It saves lives. Real quick before we close, we did our ride along this week.
We did.
We got a great video coming down the pike. We also are opening our Henderson County office. Ding, 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 ding. So I can get some pictures to you that were sent to me and doing announcements for social media. So lots of excitement around the firm. Just keep your eyes peeled for more information if you need us. If you're in Henderson, our office is in the City Center building.
City Center Mall.
City Center Mall. A lot of people consider that building the WSON building. It's not.
According to Chris, it's not.
According to Chris, it's not. Chris.
What do you know,
Chris? Oh, we got a new one.
Chris. Sorry, Kenny, you've been replaced.
Chris. All right, this has been Done Lite, brought to you by Foreman Watson Holtree, FWHlegal.com. Check us out on all of our platforms of social media. Until next time, God bless.
This case should never have come to trial.
I don't think it's fair to call my clients frauds. Because one time I turned into a dog and they helped me. Thank you.
Your Honor, we would like to withdraw our plea of not guilty and enter a plea of guilty.
This trial is a travesty. It's a travesty of a mockery of a sham, of a mockery of a travesty of two mockeries of a sham.
If we are to have faith in justice, we need only to believe in ourselves.
And the truth shall set you free!
How do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Oh, guilty, but with a real good excuse.
I think the truth will come forth.
You can't handle the truth!